Welcome to the Connected Leaders Academy virtual conference designed to reshape your vision of transformation. As we navigate the evolving business landscape, our speakers will unveil innovative strategies to manage and initiate change. Prepare to adapt, innovate, and lead, ensuring your role as a catalyst in this transformative era.
Leadership, resilience, joy. Those are three powerful words. Just think how you could level up your success as a leader by intertwining them. There was a time where I was certainly not resilient and I wasn't behaving like a leader. You might notice that I said behaving like a leader because we're actually all leaders. We're leading people in one direction or another, just by the impression we leave on them. So the question is, how are we going to empower that leadership for maximum positive impact? It wasn't so long ago that I found myself in one of the most challenging seasons of my life. It was like trying to steer a ship through a hurricane while juggling these huge, big flaming torches. Only one thing, I wasn't juggling anything. I was strapped into a wheelchair, unable to do anything. And I'd been in that wheelchair for 11 years. But when I was told I would never walk again, my world crashed. And so did my attitude. The responsibilities of living kept growing, and I had no desire to do it. And so often, we may not be in a wheelchair, but we get to that place in our entrepreneurial journey or our personal journey where we just feel overwhelmed. And there's so much pressure for us to succeed. Well, for me, that loomed over me like storm clouds. It was like I was in the biggest storm of my life. And one day I realized that what was really going to be my strength or weakness that got me through this was my attitude. Even today, when I'm now acting as a leader, I hit those moments in my business. You know, outwardly, we can look as confident and capable as possible to the rest of the world. And inside, we still wonder if there's perhaps a career opportunity where naps are part of the job description. I would go for that. Can any of you relate? Because I am a faith-centered coach. I one evening opened up my Bible looking for some scripture that was going to tell me it was okay to cancel all my meetings. I was actually hoping for clarity. And you know what I got? I did get clarity. I found that my strength came from my faith and belief. And that is what changed my attitude. So let's remember that attitude is a combination of our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. And I found in that moment that as I realized resilience isn't about just pushing through and bulldozing through the challenges, it's about leading with faith and joy. And I'm constantly reminded of the words of Nelson Mandela, who said, "Don't judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up." I've learned that true leadership isn't measured by perfection of performance. True leadership is measured by the persistence you have and the perspective you take. My thoughts of self-belief and my gratitude for what I did have and could do brought the joy that I needed to empower my actions to step forward as a leader. That joy isn't just a feel-good moment that we have. That joy is a tool. The joy gave me the creativity and the clarity. It helped me stand in the calm, even in the midst of those storms. Now, today, even when I could juggle torches in the middle of a storm, I have peace in that moment. So as I've moved on from that space of being in the wheelchair, you might have noticed I'm not there anymore. And the power of the attitude I took on brought through spiritual, emotional, and physical breakthrough, just as it does to me today when I shift my attitude to one of joy, which I now integrate into my leadership style. That brings breakthrough in just the same way for every challenge we face. So instead of seeing those setbacks as obstacles, we begin to see them as opportunities to grow. As we know, the growth mindset works. And being that Christ-centered coach, I lean on the scripture that says suffering produces perseverance, character, and character produces hope. And if we don't have hope, how can we be leading other people into hope? So I share this mindset with others. And, excuse me, I share this mindset with others. And there's an amazing leader called Sheryl Sandberg, and she says, "You're not born with a fixed amount of resilience." I knew that. I knew that in those days when I didn't feel like I had the strength to go on. But you do have resilience, and it is a muscle that you can build. That quote of hers has become a mantra for me. And we're not just surviving, we're growing stronger and we're doing it together. So now I lead with a sense of joy and purpose. And I teach it in my jump mentorship. And as a speaker, I share my joy, my story of finding joy, and that leadership isn't about avoiding the storms. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And if you're with me, you learn to laugh at how wet you're getting in the rain. That is resilience. This approach has transformed me, and it's transformed how I see challenges and therefore how I lead. Because resilient leadership isn't just about leading, it's about leading with joy. And when we find that joy, and when we focus on joy in our resilience and our faith that brings us peace and joy, we inspire others and we help others inspire the people around them. Because leadership isn't about just achieving goals. It's about impacting other people and staying grounded in your purpose. And that is even easier to do with resilience because you get to keep focusing and going on to your purpose. And that resilience is fueled by joy, no matter what comes along. So why am I sharing my story with you? How does it help you? Well, I hope that first of all, you can see the positive and powerful impact that choosing joy had on my life. You see how it can bring those breakthroughs, but it's also testimony that encourages others. Because you know what? Leadership is not about what you have already done. It's about what you are doing. And many years ago, leaders were the people who were labeled as leaders. They carried that title and everybody respected them as leaders. But nowadays, leaders, just like purpose, is not about what you do. It's about the impact you have. And we're always leading those people. Yes, because as we function and act, people look at what we're doing and they either like it or dislike it. So it steers them in a direction. There's a lot of responsibility in that. And in 2022, back when the whole world was a little chaotic, a global survey showed that about 60% of leaders felt isolated, overwhelmed, more so than ever before. The pressure to perform, to innovate, to change, to live in this whole new leadership style, especially in the crisis of that time, had never been higher. Have you been there? Because I have. When we question ourselves and we still keep going. But the one realization that changed everything is that resilience isn't just about bouncing back. It's about bouncing back stronger and thriving joyfully in the face of the challenges. And that leadership today demands more than just skills. It requires that resilient spirit, because without it, we just keep going and we become weary and worn. Resilience isn't just something that we get to fall back on and get to declare. Resilience is positive and powerful way that we behave. We believe in it and we act in it. Resilience is a strategy that is going to help you have sustainable, joyful leadership. And it's not about ignoring the obstacles. It's about overcoming the obstacles, growing stronger through them, while staying true to our core values and our focus. Even under pressure, we get to stay focused. And we get to learn to pivot when things go wrong, not to be defeated. And that requires all of that emotional regulation, getting those emotions in control so that you don't become overwhelmed. And with that, you find the peace and the joy. And if you are not staying ahead of the game with everything that's going on, you lose your joy while you're racing to catch up with everything and everyone. And no, it's not a race, but it is important to stay in front of the crowd that you are leading. Otherwise, you're no longer leading. So stay true to your core values and incorporate joy, because when you have the joy, you just have that extra energy to stay resilient towards your why. Joy comes from knowing you're getting closer to your why. And I think for most leaders, hopefully, their leadership is not as much about them as it is about serving the people they're leading. And if you don't recognize and find solutions to the problems that come from that servant leadership, you can easily lose your joy. You lose the resilience. Be prepared so that you can maintain that joy in your leadership. Why does the joy matter so much in leadership? Because it has an incredible impact on the people around you. Now, studies show that when you have joy, it releases little sparks of dopamine and serotonin. What does that do for you? It makes you more creative. It helps with your problem solving. And it certainly is motivating. And joy isn't just a feel-good emotion. It's a leadership tool that fuels long-term success. Joyful leaders find that the people around them have a better openness to collaboration and trust. And when you're working with a team or even in a community, the morale soars when there is joy. And when morale soars, performance increases. When we choose to work in joy, we find that there's this positive contagion. Have you ever noticed how contagious joy is? Joy touches fire and it spreads like wildfire. And through a team or a community, it brings up so much optimism. And in that optimism, there becomes vulnerability. And that is a space where people can heal and grow. When people are laughing together, there's so much more engagement. So if you want people to react and respond to you, you get to be a joyful leader and encourage others to be joyful so that they can engage and contribute about what they're doing. It brings forward so much more creativity, and that is a dynamic effect that happens in your brain. That's part of the neuroscience of joy. And individual people begin to explore new ideas without as much fear of failure. And all of that joy together brings a stronger cohesion in your community that fosters so much connection, and relationship. And isn't that what we want to see in our communities, be they personal, be they in our home, or be they in our business? So how do we actually cultivate it? We practice gratitude. You know, my joy came from me beginning to recognize in that wheelchair what I could do. And as I saw what I could do, that appreciation and gratitude brought joy to me. Other people noticed it. So you may not, as I said earlier, be in a wheelchair, but what are the things you get to be grateful for? And how do you actively acknowledge and appreciate the people around you and their contributions so that they can find joy in the moment too? And along with that, we get to begin to celebrate the successes and recognize not only just our own achievements, but the achievements of others. And that promotes positive interaction. It is so important, particularly when we're talking about joy, to lean into authenticity. Be genuine. You know, if you focus too strongly on being happy, it is said that that leads to unhappiness, because this is not something you can measure. So be genuine about expressing your own positive emotions and enthusiasm. And stay focused on your purpose, because as the team or people around you align with your goals, that inspires joy and motivation. It undermines trust when you lose that authenticity. But don't forget that every person expresses and experiences joy in a different way. So there may be challenges that you need to address without smothering people with your joy. Be mindful of those individual needs and preferences so that you don't overwhelm people. When we combine this joy and resilience, it fuels our next level growth. Don't you want that? Don't you want to be rushing forward? But there are days when you may not have the joy. So we get to reframe how we see things, and we get to see challenges as opportunities. So what do? We actually lean on our belief, our faith. And your faith may be different to mine, but you have a core belief that you get to lean into and you get to infuse into what you do. I do it in my jump mentorship, joyfully unleashing a more powerful purpose. We all have a purpose. And when I get stuck, I have two go-tos. The one is where I find the layout of the basis for my faith, the Bible. You may not have that. And the second is that I have my amazing friend called the Joy Junk, the Jibber. I have a jibber. Do you have something you can turn to make you laugh when things are crazy? I have this little doll. Pick him up and it changes my focus. It gives me the power of the pause. So I encourage you and I ask you, what steps are you going to lead with so that you can include joy and resilience in your life, in your leadership for next level success? You want to create a lasting impact. When you cultivate your leadership and your organization and your community into a space that incorporates joy, it becomes the key to it being long-lasting and thriving, regardless of the season or the challenge. So as you leave today, I want you to have a look at your leadership journey. How are you going to embrace resilience anchored in joy to inspire others, to drive meaningful success to them and for you? Because resilience and joy are not luxury. They are the foundation of next level success. And your next level of leadership access and success is waiting. It's just waiting for you. So let your joy fuel that resilience. And let that resilience propel your impact. Let's lead with strength, clarity, and of course, a little laughter. Because even those most serious moments, there's always a room for joy, or at least better snacks at the meetings. So I want you to remember, as Nelson Mandela said, resilience is about how you rise, not how you fall. And as Shirley Sandberg reminded us, resilience is a skill you can grow. Let's embrace joy as our secret weapon for resilience. Choose joy, lead with purpose, and watch the transformation of your leadership and your life. I've seen the transformation in my own life. I'm inspired as I see other people transform their leadership from a series of events and tasks to a passion that they are achieving through the power of joy. So again, I ask you, how are you going to incorporate joy in your leadership? How are you going to let it heal you and those around you? I did. And yet every day I have to intentionally choose the joy, because it's not a piece of clothing you put on and stays on until you take it off. There are circumstances that cloud that joy, but nothing can steal your joy. I have an acronym for joy. Just own yours, because joy and your joy is your responsibility. You cannot hand that off to anybody else. You get to choose joy by choosing how you respond to people, circumstances, and especially these storms. And you do that by equipping yourself and allowing yourself to pivot, change, and continue with self-belief. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And I hope you have had a blast and laughed a little and found some joy.
Thank you for participating in today's enlightening session. As we transition to our next expert, remember that each strategy and insight is a step toward becoming a transformative leader in your field. Visit connectedleadersacademy.com to stay engaged and informed. The journey of change is ongoing. Let's move forward together.